Ladies and gentlemen, I am super excited to have James Stratman, the owner of Peak Nutrition, with me today to talk about his story and his business and a whole bunch of other stuff. So, sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you, my man. Thanks for coming over here. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, I typically like to jump in with everybody right into what's your employment history, what kind of brought you to this spot, and then also if you would describe what you do now.
I can do that. So, employment history, you want all the way back to the first job, or what are we doing here?
If it's the highlights
Okay,
or
right,
first job, whichever one you feel like kind of makes the most sense of what got you from point A to where you are now.
Yeah, okay. So we'll skip Abercrombie, but we can go to you know what was a big one? Obviously, like my dad owned a company, so when I was really young, I actually traveled the country and worked with him. So he was a licensee for Harley Davidson. Sold t-shirts that said Harley on them. So I went to different Harley dealerships all across the U.S. And sold shirts. It was like a fucking sweet gig. But I also learned about like selling for your own business and working with other people and stuff. Obviously, I had the little like young kid jobs. I worked at a lawnmower repair shop when I was like 14, and that's when I realized like, oh, I can start my own business because it was like the most ridiculous job ever. This guy would take in broken people's lawnmowers and just like pull grass out of the bottom because they were like closed shut and charge them like $800. And I was like, oh fuck, this is awesome. He didn't do anything. He just made me clean grass out of the bottom of the lawnmower. So anyway, then normal jobs. Got out of college. I actually started a company in China. I went to school in China. Lived there for about a year and a half, and I started a company there. That was cool. So I learned a lot. And then really, I started working at a supplement store called Max Muscle back in St. Louis. And from there, I started Peak Nutrition, my own supplement store. So really, I've had like a ton of jobs. I was kind of just doing my own goofy shit. Yeah, that's about it.
Gotcha. And then right now, Peak Nutrition, you've got 2 stores here in Arizona.
We are building out the 3rd location and kind of developing the in-house brand, which is Modern Warrior. So warehouse, manufacturing, distribution, that is the big project right now.
Gotcha. So how long have you been doing nutrition supplements specifically?
So it's funny, I started Peak Nutrition in 2012, and I got up to 6 locations, and that was in St. Louis. So then I sold all those locations and started over back out here in Arizona with 0 and now building out the 3rd one.
Gotcha. So I do have some questions about your time in St. Louis, but I did want to ask as far as, I didn't know you went to school in China, so I'm a little curious as far as how was that?
Yeah, it's kind of like hard to surmise that in like a short podcast.
Right, yeah.
It was cool, but I always liked that. My family, a lot of them are from Iceland. A lot of them still live in Iceland. So I was, even at a young age, I was kind of lucky to like do some little international traveling. In high school, I moved to Germany to go to school. So I had already kind of like had that bug, you know what I mean? Then when I got into college, it was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do Chinese because that's where everything's at, you know what I mean? That's where it's gonna be.
Yep.
So studied Chinese, moved over there, really liked it a lot. Yeah, it was like the greatest time of my entire life, I was living in a city called Qingdao, which is like a small Chinese city, but of like 10 million people. But there really are. There's like 10 cities with 20 million people. It's
right, yeah.
Crazy. So by their approximation, a little smaller, but it's like a coastal city. It was different because like there weren't really any white people. There were, but not. It was pretty rare. Like people would stop me in the streets and like take a picture and stuff. It was fucking weird. Seriously, it was probably like the first white person I'd ever seen. And then also because I spoke some Chinese, it was like a much, much bigger deal. So it was fun. It was interesting. I learned a lot, and definitely really glad that I went. Anybody who ever has a chance, go live in. And at the time, it kind of was a 3rd world country, right? This was 2008. So this was before the Beijing Olympics, and I wasn't living in like a tent, but it was not like living in America.
Right.
Or Germany, very, very different.
So what brought you then to the States?
So what's funny is you go there to try to, and like, especially at the time, like it's really difficult to stay there. Like they make you leave. And I had kind of started a company, but to really own a company in China, you have to like, basically like you have to become a woofie, which is like a wholly owned foreign entity, which there's only like a handful. So I was never going to be able to I was just like putting cash in drawers. Like there wasn't like a real business. Do you know what I mean? I was like selling textiles and just kind of like putting the cash away. And then like it was difficult. I couldn't just put the money in a bank and come back either.
Right.
It was a little sketchy, but it was fun.
All right, so then kind of fast forwarding to your time in St. Louis, you built it up to 6 stores. Mm-hmm. What kind of time period are we looking at right there?
2012 to 2016.
So 4 years.
Yeah, and a little bit less. I was actually, I beginning of 2016 or whatever when I sold them. But they were also terrible. Like, it was a terrible business. They just weren't very successful. I wasn't a good entrepreneur. I wasn't a good business owner. Like in China, when I did that, it was just like me. And so I worked real hard.
Right.
And then I had, I don't know, not even a lot, probably like 20 employees, maybe a couple more, I don't know. And I didn't even know all my employees' names. Like, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
There was no like real training. There was no culture. It was like, we were really just, I was just like in my 20s and liked to party, and running a business paid for me being able to go party. There was no morals or ethics behind that one.
Gotcha. So then you sell it, come out to Arizona. When did you start the stores in Arizona?
2017.
Okay. So is there like a year break in between?
Mm-hmm. A little bit more, year and a half.
Okay. What was the shift then to say, all right, I did it in St. Louis, I sold it, now let's kickstart the engines again and try and run this back?
So the person who like bought out my inventory and helped me out a ton was the owner of First Form, Andy Frisilla. So he has supplement stores in St. Louis.
Yep.
And him and I kind of became friends, and like, about other things. We're both like into motorcycles and weird shit, and we're both from St. Louis. And went to the same college actually. So then I like got to train with his team at Supplement Superstores, and came out here to Arizona with the intent of that I was just going to open up the stores again. But this time, like, I got to see what a good company looked like how they did a lot of that. And then I also, like, without being too dramatic, like, I basically had kind of like, I turned 30 and went through like a midlife crisis or something. I was a big cokehead and just like a party boy. And then he kind of called me out on that and was like, hey, you can be a piece of shit forever. You can, but not forever. And then the same month, my grandma died, who I was really fucking close with. Like, very, very close with. So then I went through this, like, I moved out here and just spent a year, like, so corny, like reading books and meditating and like, I don't know, figuring out what life is about. Like, I wasn't that kind of person before. I was just like, where the girls at? And that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
So then I found purpose, like literally meaning to life in owning a company. Like, again, it sounds dramatic, but really, like, it's exactly the truth.
Gotcha. So what is some of the stuff that you found as far as, is it just the leadership that you found in the owning the company, be able to kind of control your destiny, or?
Okay, so I'll talk about this because it's so funny. I don't like to talk about it very often. There is this theory of like what's called finite games and infinite games. Have you ever heard of this before?
I feel like I've heard finite and infinite games, and that's about as
far as it goes, yeah. So a finite game is like a football game. Like, there are identifiable players, there's identifiable rules, and there's an identifiable winner. So like you go in, you know the rules, somebody wins, somebody loses, and that's it.
Yep.
Which I loved. Like I played sports forever. It's actually what I went to college for, was to play lacrosse.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I love like teamwork, I love camaraderie, I love like working with other guys and girls, I love winning. Like I just, that competitive edge thing, it fucking just wells you up. An infinite game is where there kind of are rules, but not really. Specifically, the game never ends, right? There is no like, this person won, this person lost. And there's an infinite number of players. So you can imagine like, the supplement industry. There's as many players as possibly out there. There's some people do better, some people do worse, but let's say even out here, it's like the big competition would be One Stop Nutrition. But they also sell smoothies. So it's like, we don't even compete with them about that. I mean, they do fucking amazing at making smoothies. And so it's like, they're our competitor, but they're also in a different strain. So the whole theory is that like, an infinite game is like about the love of the game rather than winning the game. And that like really to me hits a really good nerve, you know what I mean? To just like constantly fucking get better at it. And also the real thing is like working with other people and giving them an ability to create a career in self-development together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I think, as you're talking about the infinite game, isn't the principle also with it that the game, since it is infinite, the game never stops, the players just change?
Yeah, exactly. The players change, and there'll always be someone new. Someone will always drop out.
Yep.
But outside of like the infinite game, though, is that like just having a team of people that you're working with, and like, again, to try not to sound overly dramatic, like giving them a life. You gotta make money, you gotta feed the fam, you gotta...
Right, there's a very practical and...
utility to it as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, with that, I know you have a bachelor's degree for business management. Mm-hmm. So how does that factor into everything as far as you took that year of meditation, learning, trying to reorient how you looked at life itself? How does that factor into when you're approaching business from kind of the collegiate study arena?
I mean, it's just like, I know this is going to sound corny too, and I say that a lot, but it's like, I don't even remember anything from like that business degree that I used practically in business. Like maybe there's some stuff that like snuck in and then I like learned it. And I'm sure there was some kind of like, some tactical things I probably learned in there. But honestly, on a day-to-day basis, it's like, there's nothing I picked up at school that helped me hire good people, manage human beings, understand marketing strategy. Like, I'm not saying it was all just self-taught, but there's nothing that I can think of in a practical business sense that degree really fucking did for me. Like, I would have been so much better off getting a job somewhere in a really difficult field and like learning. And I think I am one of those people that's like, fuck school. Like if you're not going there to be a doctor,
right,
or a scientist or some kind of legal or something, law, there's just no point. Like
right.
Unless you're going to like Harvard, where the point is that you're meeting other people that are very successful and then you have these connections. But as far as like the tools that you're going to learn is like, man, find a place that is going to teach you all that shit and pay you to do it rather than you pay somebody to not learn anything.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. This is just kind of my observation and theory on it, but school has had a shift from the 80s to 90s. It was something that you went to because you wanted to get a successful career, and then in the 2000s going into probably to where we are now, it started to kind of shift and become something that was so heavily marketed to the public that instead of it being, hey, this is about the future after college, it's about college itself.
Yeah.
And so just like you said, it's so many people would be better served to find someone that you want to be like, train under them, so that then you can emulate them if it's in that same field or in the field that you want to go into.
You know what's funny is like I feel like I learned more working. So that guy Andy Rosillo, who owns First Form, his stores are called supplement superstores. I learned more working for like 6 weeks in his stores than I did in 4 years of college. I mean, you learn like the practical day-to-day things, like how do you fucking work with other people? How do you devise marketing strategies? What happens when one of the teammates is like not doing what they're supposed to do? You know, just like simple shit.
Right.
So anyway,
yeah. So then I wanted to step into, I know you mentioned the competitors here. There's obviously so many supplement stores around the nation. There's everyone going to an online platform to be able to sell stuff. So what do you try and do to set yourself apart from the competition as far as to say, hey, we're planting our flag and this is why you should definitely come interact with us rather than any of the competitors?
So there's this theory, right, about that, like, you obviously don't ever want to try to be the best at anything in business. You just want to be different. So, you know, you want to have your beachhead is what they call it. That allows you to like dig something in the sand to where even up against the biggest companies in the world, like they couldn't do anything to harm you. So like Amazon, right? They sell supplements and it's pretty fucking easy to get your supplements from Amazon.
Right.
So what we try to do is do everything the opposite of what Amazon does. If they're fast, we're slow. If theirs is automated, ours is handwritten. If theirs is efficient, we make you sit and take 45 minutes and discuss all the details of your diet before we're gonna recommend a particular, you know, slow digesting protein. And what that allows is like the people who want something quick and efficient, like they weren't gonna like us anyway. They don't wanna go into a fucking store. They don't wanna like sit with me and talk about this shit. You know, they wanna get their stuff and go.
Yep.
But the person who really wants like detailed analysis and they want to get a little better and, you know, they wanna learn something or they like are really concerned with like, let's say like losing body fat or gaining muscle, then we're the answer for them.
Right.
Absolutely. You know, it doesn't matter if you got your BCA for $20 or $25, like it's not going to change your physique.
Right.
But what you eat and, you know, your micronutrients, macronutrients, and all those things as a holistic view is going to, and for that person, we're going to be pretty fucking good.
Right. I think it's interesting too, like everyone looks at Amazon, they look at a lot of the, if it's just even the online platform, and it's the convenience, it's the speed, it's all that stuff, but there is still a place for any transaction of any product, I think, for the human interaction.
Yeah.
For someone to say, hey, I'm gonna take that extra however many minutes, if it's from 2 all the way up to, like you said, if it's 45 before we even talk about a product, and it's because some people, they need that someone to explain something to them, if it's a concept, if it's...
Or you're just new to it. Like, exactly. I went and bought a gun today. I know a little bit about guns, but I went into a place, I called them, I asked if they had it, then I sat there and I talked to the dude for like 45 minutes about all the other different options, and I held the different guns, and he was like, well, you know, I used to have a SIG, and I didn't really like the way that it did this, and then I'm not going to have buyer's remorse about the gun that I bought.
Right.
Because I'm well educated and I feel good about it, and you know, I don't know. I don't even know if I paid more for it at this place than if I like bought it online and transferred it somewhere. I don't even know, and I don't even care. Like I know that like I got the right one for me.
Yep.
And like I got an expert's evaluation on that product.
Right. And I think there will always be a market for that. Everyone's trying to do the Amazon, hey, I can get it Prime. Like we're shortening that Prime period, but it's like sometimes it's the interaction. Sometimes it's the slow.
Yeah. But also like, you know, like I said, is that there's a lot of people that want it fast and quick, and that's fine. It's like I'm not even like looking for those customers. Like I don't want to bog somebody down.
Yep.
You know, there are things that like I do buy on Amazon. Like if I need paper towels, like I fucking buy them on Amazon.
Right.
I don't need research about paper towels.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends on where you're at and what you want to do.
Absolutely. leadership seems to be a large part of what you've been posting about, especially on social media. I know we've talked about it here, and then you mentioned as far as with your reading, what leaders were influential for you as far as if it's through reading, in person, and then kind of what specifically did you draw from those people that influences how you try and lead and manage your team today?
Okay, so I'll go through my idols that are like still alive. You can use practice off of, right? Those are probably the best ones. So first, obviously, I brought his name a couple times out. Andy Vasilla. Everybody can go listen to his podcast, read his books. Like, they're phenomenal. I am a huge fan of Bill Gates. I cannot stress how important of a business leader Bill Gates was. A lot of times he gets passed up as like, because it's 2021 now, and he did all this like in the 80s, so it seems so long ago, we kind of like have forgotten a little bit.
Right, yeah.
But he not only created the business, he was so smart that what he did was, so, the first thing he really created was like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, right? And what he did, and he knew this, was like, because he was a computer nerd, he was a software genius, was that like the average company was typing literally on a fucking typewriter their documents or handwriting it, and big billion-dollar companies like IBM had like the very first computers. He created a product that allowed every person to be able to compete strategically with a billion-dollar company. Like IBM was using the same software that Billy at the bowling alley was using. And that it's like coming out of Facebook. It put MSNBC and Josh over on the exact same platform. One isn't higher than the other.
Yep.
So he like fundamentally changed the world. But usually the person that like changes the world and has that insight is not usually a good leader. He was amazing. Like through that time, understood how to like rally troops, how to like get his top executives to lead, how to focus on narrow areas of growth and keep trying to change the world. One of the things that gets overlooked a lot about Bill Gates is like, he's known for having said, we will always keep 1 year of cash in the bank. And obviously if you're growing a business, anybody who's got a business or has ever ran one knows that is ludicrous, especially for a company valued at billions of dollars.
Right.
But he was right, because so many times there were like .com crashes, and he could see that his whole industry was in such turmoil and constant fluctuation that hoarding a lot of cash and taking very small, minute risks every day and never taking big, giant risks was like the way to go. And they constantly grew every year for fucking like 30 years. I mean, it wasn't until he stepped down as CEO that they started making mistakes. And it's just like, he is classically known as like a level 5 leader. I mean, just literally amazing. So yeah, he'd be a big one.
Gotcha. And then what do you try and take, not just with leadership, but just in general, as far as when you're building your team, what do you try and take to your team building as far as characteristics, practical implementation, stuff like that? Okay,
so there are distinctly like 4 things. The first one is have a set purpose. So like, what is the overarching reason why you exist as a company? Ours is to help everybody in the Arizona area get to their fitness goals. So it's not to make money, it's not to open more stores, it's not to what else, it's, guys, this is what we do, this is what we care about. Then you have a set of core values. The core values, I think a lot of people sometimes get mistaken about why you have core values. What it does is it's like putting up like field goals around a large field and saying like, we're not going to go outside of these bounds, right? Like, we're not going to cut a corner to get this extra money or do this other thing because that's outside of our values. And everybody's field is different. Like, you know, other people have different core values, and that doesn't make it good or bad. It's just like, this is what we do. So like one thing that we say, one of our core values is commit completely. And through that, what it really means is we don't hire any part-time people, and you can't have a second job. Even if it's like 2 hours a week, it doesn't even matter. Like, you're not allowed to bring in a second source of income. And that seems harsh, but the point is like, for us, we want you to be an absolute expert in nutrition. So if you have an extra 30 minutes a day, you better be learning about fucking nutrition. And that's why my team is so good. So we've lost a lot of opportunity to hire really good guys and girls because they also Uber on the weekends, or they, got their own side hustle or whatever. And they would probably be fucking excellent salesmen, but it doesn't fit our core values. And so purpose, our core values, and then our big like pie in the sky goal, which is to create our giant facility. I can get into that later, but that's like, we have this big vision of where we want to get to, and that helps everybody on the team know that we're getting to this big place. Like all the little small work to do is getting us to this big place. And so once you have those three things, then it's the tactical work of, like, leadership is basically like having somebody watch you do the work, then allowing them to do the work and fail over and over, and coaching them through failing over and over, so that then they can do the same thing with somebody else. And it's really not more complicated than that. It's like, you have some project, some work that you got to do. It's like, you get your little Padawan next to you and you go do it a bunch, show them how it's done, and then you just watch them do it and watch them fail a million times and coach them through it on how to do it better, what we could, what we bad, until eventually they're better at it than you are, and then they get themselves a little Padawan. And you go through the process. And that's how we build our entire company.
And then everything is just regulated by the core values, the purpose, just all going back to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big thing as far as with culture. A lot of people will use it as a buzzword in our society because there are certain leaders in whatever industry who use it, and they like to say, oh, our culture is, and they'll throw whatever tag on it, but they don't understand even how to build culture. Yeah. I think so many businesses get stuck in, I'm the one person who can lead what's going on, I'm the most proficient, but they don't take that step to say, hey, culture that has to be outside of you. Mm-hmm. It has to be able to transcend yourself. The leader is the tip of the spear to regulate where that culture goes.
Yeah.
So it's then, like you said, it's the purpose, it's the core values, and that's what will keep everything alive.
Yeah, and as far as like culture goes, like it is a buzzword. It sucks.
Yeah.
But what is that? This was one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my whole life. Culture is like peeing your pants. It's warm and feels great, but you can only feel it. You can't know it from the outside. Is like you can feel when a company has a good culture,
yep.
but you can't define it or put a finger on it.
Right.
Like if you came into a Peak store, you'd be like, holy fuck, this is amazing. But you wouldn't be able to say why, because it's a feeling, not a process.
Right, and I think so many people miss that because there's so many business leaders who are driven by, does this translate to my spreadsheet? Mm-hmm. Do I see this on the quarterly earnings, yearly earnings? And it's like, you can't always measure the direct correlation between some of the intangibles when it translates then to tangible, because it's not a definite period of time that it converts.
Yeah.
And I feel like for a lot of people, that's very hard for them to understand, especially when they've come from an area where, or even a background where they've gotten their back so pushed up against the wall with their business that they almost tunnel vision into the money.
I think, well, just to back real quick, is like, it should show on the spreadsheet that you have a good culture.
Absolutely.
But I see what you're saying, and I like to use this analogy as like, let's say you go to a little coffee shop and you order, you're like, can I get a cold brew? And the guy's like, yeah, whatever. You're just gonna, you get the cold brew and you leave and you paid your $5. I'm like, whatever. Or you go in and you're like, can I get a cold brew? And the guy's like, oh my God, dude, what you need is the cold brew surf. It has the mocha frap on top. It is brand new. And you know what? I can put in my code. I'll get you 50 cents off. This thing is fucking awesome. Like, that is the difference of a good culture. It's like, you still got a drink. Didn't really change. But like, the person's enthusiasm about what they're doing to get you like the best possible outcome or experience is like what they care about.
Yeah.
Like they weren't trying to upsell you to a better thing. They were just like, oh my God, you're gonna lose your mind if you love cold brew. The fucking cold brew surf is the best thing ever. Like you just know that person cares about like what they're doing.
Right.
And I like, and everybody knows that feeling. And you go, holy fuck, I just served the fuck out of that coffee. That's a big one.
I love your dog.
Yeah, he's adorable.
How have you then taken that approach to say, here's how we're going to market Peak? So I know that you guys are very big within, everyone in the company seems to be very big and very present on social media, first of all, but then also not just that they're trying to do personal things on social media, but that you guys are going to, if it's gyms or cycle bar, you guys stop by the gym I go to, CrossFit Guru. So you've really built an intentionality with the community. And how much of that was to say, how much do you try and throw behind that to make sure that's where your growth is, or what other avenues do you try and take when you're building your marketing?
So interesting is, so we always have what's called a quarterly theme.
Okay.
So a quarterly theme is like, it's obviously Q2 now. And we make something that is a theme that also relates to a new KPI.
What's KPI?
Key performance indicator.
Okay.
So what this is like in this quarter, everybody on the team has to go visit 3 gyms a week. What we do is like, it's a very simple process. We go into a gym, say, hey, Dennis, dude, this gym is fucking awesome. I work over at Peak. I would love to get some business, like some of your guys' business cards to bring over to the store. So that way, like if we have anybody come in who's interested in going to a CrossFit place, I've got somewhere to send them. So if you go in not asking for anything, we don't go in like, hey, come buy our supplements. When I said that our purpose, right, is to help as many people as possible in the Phoenix area get to their fitness goals. Well, if somebody comes in and like, they want to lose weight, they're not going to a gym right now, they don't eat very healthy, like we're going to help them out, we're going to give them a nutrition plan, but we don't own a gym.
Right.
So that we need to steer them somewhere. In our conversation with them, we're going to find out what kind of workouts they like. Like, oh, I like HIIT workouts. I'm like, oh, okay. Let's go over to this CrossFit gym. Go check these guys out. Because then I know if they're working out, they're going to stay targeted on their goals better.
Right.
So because our purpose is so set in stone, that is like kind of our marketing. Like we just go out and see if we can help other gyms. And then you help other gyms and like, oh, these guys don't suck. Like, all right, this is cool. And you just, we work out at different gyms and we hang out and we literally just enjoy ourselves and hang out with people in the fitness industry. And then they come in and buy themselves from us. Like, I think sometimes, honestly, people think that we have this like grand like marketing plan. There isn't. Like, there's nothing written down. There's no like. Our strategy is like meet people that go to gyms and become their friend. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, and like you said even earlier, business isn't that complicated.
No.
It's pretty straightforward. It's just executing over and over on the simple menial things day after day.
And so every 2 weeks we sit down with every employee and we say, all right, what were the 6 gyms that you went to? Who did you meet there? Like, were they cool? Like, what did they do? Like, what kind of workouts did you do? Like, that's it. So then we themed this quarter community. Miss, how good of a job did you do at meeting people in the community?
Cool. And is that within gyms or just community in general?
Well, you don't want to say just gyms, because those could be like yoga studios,
fitness related.
Yeah, stretch zone, some of that, but it's mostly gyms.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. And then, what is the challenge that you feel like? Do you feel like there's a challenge that faces the supplement space that is more pronounced than other areas? One of the things I like to tell people is business is business. So it doesn't matter what arena you're in. Basically, you're going to have the same thing as far as there's going to be an element of sales, there's going to be leadership, there's going to be management of employees, turnover. All basically, you're going to see it whether like I'm in real estate, so you'll see it in differing variations as far as if you're by yourself, there's not really turnover, but even within turnover of clients, all that good stuff. But there's sales even for the people who are.
So you're saying what's different in the supplement space?
Yeah, or do you feel like it's still just all the same? Business is business.
Yeah, business is business. It's all the same. I mean, every industry does have its own thing,
right?
You know, that like makes it unique. You know, for supplements, I think the only thing like different is that there is a lot of like snake oil mentality. Like other industries have that too. You know, you imagine like the used car salesman.
Yep.
You know, but I think supplements probably more than any industry I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, maybe like insurance or something. I don't know. But where people are just kind of weird. Like they come in and they'll even walk into a supplement store and be like, nah, I don't really take supplements. It's like, what the fuck are you doing in here?
Yeah.
And people will say that, but I think that is because of something true. Is that like there are a lot of shady supplements, and there's a lot of shady people selling supplements.
Yeah.
So we have to like really go out of our way. It's like that's why I pay for everybody who works for me 2 different NASM certifications, National Academy of Sports Medicine. So that way there's like legitimacy behind what they do. We put up on our wall there this thing called the hierarchy of needs. So it like shows you what are the supplements that really are important, like vitamins, minerals, fish oil, protein, and then what are the ones that are like, they're not hurting you, but like pre-workout, BCAAs, they're not like life-changing ingredients.
Right.
And because we come out straightforward and say like, hey, these supplements are not, you know, again, they're not bad. They can actually help you, but like they're not going to be the thing that makes you lose 20 pounds. Because we do that, it helps us a lot because we are against an uphill battle of people just think the supplements can be shitty.
Yep. I love all the memes that go around online where it's like when your parents mistake your creatine for steroids and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of my favorite.
Yeah.
With that, I did want to ask as far as, do you guys see also an uptick? Like I know you seem very fitness oriented with what you guys have done business wise, but it seems that in some ways a lot of supplementation has started to go, and correct me if this is just my perception, but also just mainstream. As far as you've got people where they're not necessarily supplementing because, trying to get bigger, more in shape, lose some weight, whatever it is, but it's just as far as like, hey, I'm on the go, so I need to get a shake in or get something. If it's like, let's get vitamins in and we're going to do it with a shake or something like that. So it seems that it's now almost translating to the culture at large rather than being in this niche space.
So I will say 2 things that are the exact opposite of each other, but I think that they're both true.
Okay.
Yes, I do think that the branding of some companies is like, oh, I'm just taking this thing because it's this brand and it's cool. Like, I have Lululemon shorts.
Right.
I take Ghost pre-workout. Like, it's just cool to say.
Yeah.
That I agree with. I think the opposite kind of about like what you were saying, like, oh, I'm just taking a shake or I'm just taking these vitamins. You know, basically as a country, we eat too much fat and sugar, which means we're getting a deficit of protein. And secondarily, more and more of our food is like tan or light brown, meaning that it has no micronutrients, right? It's like fried or it's bread or it's a pastry or it's, I mean, just basically anything that you can imagine that looks like a hot dog bun or like waffles or fucking just anything like that is just not going to have any micronutrients.
Right.
And we actually are eating more of that now than we ever have. So even though we're a first world country, we're getting less vitamins and minerals because we don't eat enough fruits and vegetables.
Yep.
So I think that people are also just learning that, like, I do need to take in more protein. I don't eat fish, and like having a healthy source of EPA and DHA like is super fucking beneficial. So omega-3 fatty acids, like you're not getting it anywhere else. And having a high dose of that is like by every clinical measure going to fucking help you out. So I think that like those things are just like people are also becoming more aware that like if I have a protein shake at 3 o'clock, I'm less likely to eat a Kit Kat at 3 o'clock. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that that's, I mean, but that more so because like fitness as a whole, you know, even like 20 years ago, after work, like the cool thing to do was like go to a bar and have a cocktail at the cocktail hour. Like get dressed up to go have a beer at 5:30.
Right.
Now it's like you get dressed up to go to the gym, which is like the new nightclub.
Yep.
But I don't have any problem with that. I'd much rather people all fucking going to the gym than going to a bar.
Right.
It's just trendy. Like
Yeah.
it is trendy right now to like be in the fitness world. But because of that, I think that people are also understanding that there's some other small things they can do like protein, vitamins, fish oils that are just generally beneficial.
Do you think it's a trend to be in the gym in the way that you feel like it's going to go away? Or do you think that this is something where it's kind of the page is turning to say, hey, this is going to become more of a part of people's lives?
Yeah, it's probably a trend that'll ebb and flow. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think it actually is dying a little bit, which is what's funny.
Okay.
Like a couple of years ago, when Instagram and shit just was getting big, fitness was like the only thing that was on there. Now, I see this like new trend of like very young kids that are like, you know, whatever, 17, 18 and stuff. That like, there are a bunch that are into fitness, but there's also a bunch that are just into like being naturally healthy. I would call them more like, you know, kind of like hippies. Like
Okay.
they're like vegans. They're really into like all natural organic stuff. Like they don't like do heavy drugs. It's kind of like this like counterculture of like mental health and being generally healthy. And I think that there'll be a small turn against like, when I say the gym, I mean like the weightlifting bro.
Right, yeah.
That'll probably ebb and flow up and down. And you'll probably see more of this like generally health conscious people rather than us viewing like the dude who does steroids as healthy.
Right, yeah. Which I think a big part of that has to do with bodybuilding.
Yeah. But even, you know, you gotta poke at like the things that there's like powerlifting or CrossFit or in no way are those things bad.
Right.
But they are also like, it's just like anything. Like a really fast car is fucking cool, but it also is gonna break down quicker.
Yep.
You know, a Toyota Camry is gonna last forever.
Yep.
But it's just not gonna get anywhere very quick. You know, that's kind of how you can view the human body. Like,
Yeah.
you're doing CrossFit and powerlifting and shit, like you're gonna tear something, you're gonna hurt something, you're gonna fuck something up.
Yep.
But also, if you like that shit, go do it. That's awesome. You know, I do it. I love it.
Yeah.
But also, like, I've got more injuries than somebody who just did yoga for 25 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, take what you want. But like I said, I think that the next wave is like generally more health conscious style of fitness.
Yeah. I did want to ask as far as what challenges you guys saw. We're in 2021 now, so it's like, what did you see in 2020? Obviously, there were times where people were shut down for a while, or there's a lot of people just not going out so much in general. So what did you guys see as far as what challenged you, and then was there anything that kind of came out of that you feel like is going to help shape you guys down the road?
You know what's funny is it really strengthened what we were doing. Like, you know, for us, like Vitamin Shop went out of business. GNC, filed for bankruptcy. And I think that like they were dying anyway because they were just retail stores that didn't have a real reason to be around. They had just been around for so long that they were a name.
Right.
So, I mean, like anything, you just gotta be fucking good at what you do. And what coronavirus did was kind of like show you like, oh, you better be fucking really good at what you do if you want to stay around specifically in retail. But, okay. You know what was really funny? I was reading this the other day about how in 2020, actually suicides were down. Even though like, it was kind of the thing that everybody was saying during last year that like,
Suicides were up.
Suicides were up,
Right.
and we're, because we've got to stay at home, like this isn't worth shutting down because people are killing themselves. But the opposite happened. Less people committed suicide. And I think that we're going to come out of this and we're going to learn so many weird things about the human psyche and like what happens to us that like no one was ready for. So, like, what's one that I think a lot about is why people work out. So, obviously, like if you really get down to it, the main reason why people work out is because the same reason that we buy the newest shoes is like we want people to notice us, right? Yeah. It's actually a social cue. You want to be attractive, we want to be fit, and we want mates to look at us.
Right.
And if you don't think that, go take a fucking biology class. Yes, I get that you work out. Everybody says this. They work out to relieve stress. Yes, I get that. But if nobody could ever see you ever again, you wouldn't work out. You wouldn't fucking do it. Okay, so anyway. But there's obviously a lot of different reasons about like why people pick the certain type of fitness that they do. And I think what this did was like gyms were closed and these one things were open and a different thing wasn't open. And so it was like taking a snow globe and like shaking it up. And everybody got to see like different types of fitness. The gym bro who normally just does this thing had to go to an outdoor yoga retreat. And then all of a sudden he was like, oh fuck, that was kind of cool. There were chicks everywhere. I like that. And that is the thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is like, how do you get people into new modalities of fitness? Because it really just takes like seeing it. You know what's funny? Do you know what F45 is?
Yes.
I'm not much for like whatever the new. I like Orange Theory Fitness. I like whatever. I like anything that gets people to move. But I went in and did an F45 class, and I was like, this is amazing. Like it was the best form of cardio I've ever done in my life. It was like very lightweight resistance training at a very high pace, all, 30 seconds on, 20 seconds off, whatever the time. Like I loved CrossFit when I did it. I fucking love CrossFit. But to me, what happens with CrossFit is like, at least when I did it, is it becomes like your lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like my number one is like my work. Number two is my work. And number three is my girlfriend. So it's like, I don't have time for another thing. F45 was pretty cool that it was like, I hate doing cardio. And the weight and stuff like that was light enough that I could still go lift the next day, power lift or something, but I could get like my cardio in without hard resistance training.
Right, yeah.
It was just like, but anyway, I would have never done it at coronavirus. I was just like, I find it very interesting. I like that.
Yeah. I think it's always interesting when there's moments where it makes people pivot, where they're going to say, everyone's got to adapt. That was one of the things that I was very interested in when everything was shutting down last year. I know it was kind of, like, in some ways it was messed up, but just to see, like, all right, who's going to make it out of this? Who's going to still be standing? And what's the landscape going to look like business-wise on the other side of this? Because there's no way in which I knew going in that we were going to come out the same. Even when they told us it was going to be 14 days, it was like, no.
No.
Yeah.
This is going to be a game changer.
Yeah, exactly. So you did mention it earlier. I was a little curious as far as you mentioned the giant facility that you guys, or the giant warehouse that you're looking at. So what's going on with that?
Okay, so I'm not going to explain all of it, but I'll explain a basic premise for it, right?
Okay.
In Arizona, I am disturbed by the lack of companies that are an integral part of the overall Arizona community.
Okay.
So let me see what I mean by that. I'm from St. Louis, and Anheuser-Busch is in St. Louis. Anheuser-Busch has these beautiful gardens that like are open to the public, and they sponsor huge, massive events for like the community to come get together. They do a ton of charity work. Have you ever seen, I know you've seen these like the Budweiser Clydesdale horses. They stroll them up and down the streets, and like it's like a sense of pride for everybody in St. Louis. And there's a lot of other companies like that in St. Louis that are like, they're like staples of the community.
Yeah.
And so let's take like out here, I really don't know much about them, but I know that like Cold Stone is from out here in Arizona.
Yeah.
But like, I've never really heard of them doing anything. I maybe they have, and maybe I don't know, so somebody could correct me, but like, my dad was a licensee for Harley Davidson, right? And so the Harley Davidson community, which is a great community, like basically, afforded him the lifestyle that he wanted, and it was a big company, and he got to do really cool shit. And he gave a lot back to them. When I say a lot, I mean in the order of millions and millions. By putting on events or keeping these particular like races, I won't go into too much detail, like alive. And like, it goes beyond like that it helps your company or helps you or whatever. It's just kind of like you have the ability to do something really great. So what I would tell the team is like, we can imagine that we get X number of peak nutritionists out here. Modern Warrior is a national brand that really like, we believe is going to be one of the top supplement companies in the world. And we want to have a facility here in Arizona. You know what I'm talking about downtown, where there was like 1,000 dilapidated old buildings with like nothing in them.
Yeah.
We want to bring the supplement manufacturing out here. I want to bring, like for jobs to the local area.
Yeah.
I want to have a giant facility that's like an educational facility, like a mini campus. Because all of our team, we are constantly training our team. Like I said, it's not just the certifications. They have like over 100 hours of training, and we use this like software to learn everything we do. I want to bring in like actual doctors, kinesiologists, and scientists to explain different things in fitness and sleep and recovery, and to educate our team and everyone else. But then also, I can imagine like being downtown and putting on like from 2 to 5 o'clock, youth fitness activities for kids who like, their parents don't come home until 5 or 6, or they need some kind of assistance. And we've got a team of people that put that on for like inner city kids. And we actually talk a lot about this I'm not diving into it, but a very specific charity that we want to create called Warrior Women, and like doing something that is just literally to the point of that, like to be a staple of the community, and know that like we're doing this. Sure, we want to fucking make money. Sure, we want to make jobs, but like we also want to do some cool shit and help people out that like they may not even buy our stuff, but they're a part of Arizona, and Arizona gave us the ability to have this amazing company.
Yeah. I really resonate with that. I love that idea. There's even a spot off of Peoria, off the I-17 that I look at, and I'm like, I want to build an office there just because it's kind of a similar thing. You say like, it seems like certain things are moving away from it, and it's just like, no, I don't want to see it go.
Yeah.
And I think to your point it's very valid. Like this has been my home my entire life, so as far as what I've seen, there's a lot of young people who it seems if they show up, it's because of college, and if they're born here, they want to go somewhere else.
They don't appreciate what it is. I think that it's like I moved here when I was 30.
Yeah.
And I'm from, okay, God bless St. Louis and everything that it has, but there are some rough parts about it. I think it's like the area that I grew up in is like the murder capital of the U.S. I think I have the highest per capita murder rate, North County, St. Louis, in the U.S. Crazy. Anyway. And it's kind of ugly. Like, it's just like a gross area a lot of times. And like, out here, you have such an amazing, like a beautiful physics. Like the landscape out here is just gorgeous. The people that come out here, it's so interesting because everybody's from somewhere else.
Yeah.
But you still have this like strange, like kind of Native American vibey. It's not West Coast. It's not like California, but it's it's not the Midwest either. And to me, it's not liberal or conservative. It's just like,
I call it the Wild West.
Yeah, it's the Wild West. Like, just leave me the fuck alone.
Yep.
And let me do whatever I want.
Yep.
And I love that. Like, nobody's really trying to be like crazy religious, but nobody also is trying to like, take away your guns either. There's no like, it seems to me that's the way it is out here. And I love it. I really appreciate Arizona a lot.
Yeah.
And I want to keep that cultural vibe going.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think to what you said as well, it's to try and create certain anchors in the state that say, this is something to be proud of because, like we said, it's like we look at America as a melting pot of the world, but I feel like in some ways Arizona becomes like a melting pot of the U.S.
100%.
So it's to say, like, if you go to California, you've got the beaches, you've got certain things. It's like you've got Silicon Valley that is, where I'm from, NorCal, whatever it is. You've got East Coast as far as New York it's New York.
Yeah.
Like, there's no competing with that. So it's to even say, like, we need the Anheuser-Busch of Arizona. Something
Absolutely.
to say, like, this is what we rally behind. Even if you're from somewhere else.
You're here now.
Yes.
Like, it bums me out. I'm sitting here wearing a Suns jersey. And it's because I remember when I first moved here, I went to a Suns game and like everybody was wearing Lakers jerseys there.
That drives me up the
And I'm like,
Cardinals
what
fan,
in the fuck is going on? Yeah, I mean, like, this is your state. Like, be proud of it. And that's what I want. You know what I mean? I want people to be proud of Arizona. Like, we are a cool state. And to be fair, I don't blame everybody. I think that a lot of times, a lot of the companies that are here for like tax reasons or cheap labor.
Yep.
And they're not invested in the people. But like, if you see my company, like, oh, this guy kind of, like, our frontline retail minimum wage employees have option for, I pay for their healthcare, 401k plans, retirement plans, like, and not for any ulterior motive, but I care about them.
Yep.
And I care about people in the state, and I want to create something that our little slogan is raise your standard. And I don't mean that just for us. I mean, like, I want to be such a good company that other companies are like, fuck, god damn it, now I gotta do this. You know what I mean?
It's the Tom Brady or Peyton Manning principle where they move from one organization to the other. There is a culture shift from the top down, even to the equipment managers that says, hey, you're not out there playing with him, practicing with him, but the standard is raised.
Absolutely. And you gotta fucking raise to that occasion immediately if you want to stay with this.
Right.
And I mean that. Like, I want us to do things out here as a company that it makes other companies do better shit, which is more competition for us, but that in total is good for everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I had listed on here, and I feel like we've kind of covered it, but as far as what do you want your legacy to be when you're 70? We talked about the infinite and the finite game before. It's at a certain point, Father Time will win. So far undefeated. So what do you see as the legacy that you want to leave when you decide it's time for the game to go on without you?
Honestly, I really swear to God I mean this. This is good. This is now going to have nothing to do with like what we were talking about at all.
Hey.
I want to mine helium-3 on the moon.
Mine helium-3.
I'm really not joking.
Okay.
At all.
I have no idea what helium-3 is.
This is such, like, I could talk about this for fucking 24 hours.
Okay.
I love what I do. I love working with people. I love all this stuff, but like I genuinely do have a passion to, like all of this is like building up and building up and building up so that way when I turn 60 years old, I can help invest in a company that will get to the moon easily back and forth and mine helium-3. It's just a specific isotope of helium. Helium is a non-renewable source on Earth, right? So we have like 10% left of our entire stores of it.
Okay.
And once it goes, there's no more. It's not like hydrogen that has like a cycle.
Yep.
But the moon has a ton of helium. And it specifically has helium-3, which has other applications as well. But helium is used in a lot of things like superconductive materials, so like fMRIs. A lot of very like functional things that we use to create superconductive materials, very low temperature materials. So we can, for very specific reasons, it has to be very, very cold so that way there's no friction so that the machinery can work. And if somebody were willing to take that risk and to figure out how to do it, it would quite literally like save humanity in a lot of, not save it, but it would
ensure preservation.
Oh, big time. And somebody's going to do it, but you know, this is really corny, but it's kind of like, I mean, I think that guys like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos that are trying to go to Mars is like a little, it's awesome, that's cool, but that's like way too big for what I can understand. But I'm heavily involved in like physics. I love it. Studied it in college actually, and it's something that eventually will happen because we have to, and it just takes like a risk of a certain number of business owners to get together and invest money to be able to make it happen, and that is what I want to do.
Awesome.
That is so random out there, but like I do tell everybody about it too.
Yeah. All right, I've got a couple quick questions to kind of wrap this thing up.
Cool.
What's been the most impactful thing you've learned?
Don't get angry when people fuck things up.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh man, what's a movie I can watch that over and over? Wow, this is a really tough one. I should be able to go really quick on this. There is, God, why am I not doing so well here? You know what? Just because it's a newer movie, but it really is that good. But have you seen the movie Tenet?
No.
The new movie by the guy who made Batman Returns or Dark Knight.
Is it Christopher Nolan?
Christopher Nolan, yeah. It is probably the best movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
Really?
It is that fucking good. And I'm a movie snob.
All right.
Okay.
What's your first character strength that comes to mind?
First character strength?
Yep.
What does that mean?
What would you look at as a strength that you have?
You know what? I'm a pretty good communicator. Like, I really listen to people when they talk, and I sit and think about it, and I'll just have an in-depth conversation with people about whatever it is they want to fucking talk about. Yeah.
What's the craziest pre-workout you've ever tried?
There was a pre-workout. Remember the pre-workout called Jack 3D that had DMHA in it? DMAA in it?
I've never been a real pre-workout guy.
DMAA is basically like meth, and it's illegal now. But it really is like very close, chemically structured to methamphetamines.
Okay.
It's obviously like banned now. But there was a pre-workout called Jack that had DMAA in it. And then like this other company came out with like Yoked. And it was just like jacked with 2 scoops or something. I don't know, but I remember taking it and like I literally had to lay down and like put a cold towel on my head. I was dying. And it was the worst. But yeah, that was the most intense.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
But yeah.
it was really bad.
where can people contact you or follow what you're doing?
My Instagram, it's the Viking. That's it. Hit me up on there. Say what's up.
Cool.
Cool.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
Dude, thanks for coming, bro. This was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was real good.
Yeah. So for all you guys, if you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, tell a friend, and until next time, I hope your hammer stays accurate, your Wi-Fi fast, and your work blessed. See you, everybody.